There you are. Oh, I thought we'd have to do the show without you, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting will be a thrill. Grandpa and chill, grandson and friends. Podcasting Grandpa and chill will be a thrill. Grandson and friends. With your hosts, Grandpa Barton, Brandon Fox, Phines Jackson, and Sierra Dawes. This is Grandpa and Chill.
If you had to make an anime that had to do with watchmaking, what would the show be about, and what would the name be of it?
Pretty good idea.
Oh gosh, that's it. That actually is a great idea. I mean, if they could make anime about like food wars, they could make an anime about watchmaking.
Yeah, go ahead.
It would probably be something along the lines of the little guy kind of going against all the big names trying to just suck up all your money, right? I think that would be an interesting, because anime is about underdogs usually, not always, but usually it's the underdog, the little guy kind of fighting it out against the big tough guy. So I guess I would make it like little guy trying to get into watchmaking, all the big Swiss watches, they don't want him there. And so, he just goes in and he shows them his skills, and they're like, you'll never make it. You'll never get in this industry. And then you make some friends along the way, and it's like you got this kind of, you got a skill, but it needs sharpening. So you meet like the old wizened master who's been doing it for 50 years. And then all of a sudden he's just been trained to be like the expert watchmaker, right?
I hope he can learn how to slow down time or something. He masters it so well. But I don't know. Yeah, it sounds fun.
That would be fun. It's like he's got magnetic powers.
Who knows?
It just puts all the watch parts together. By the way, don't put your magnet next to your watch. You don't want to do that in real life.
Well, then we have an antagonist. We have a villain already. There we go.
Magneto.
Yeah, pretty much. He's trying to mess up everybody's time so they're late for work.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, because quartz watches, no matter how good a regular movement watch is, it's not as accurate on timekeeping as a quartz watch, even a cheap one. Why they haven't made really expensive cases for the quartz watches?
There's a few, but they're, like you said, it's not really common. There is a quartz Rolex. I see them every blue moon. Usually we just do a battery change. We can't really get parts for stuff like that. Most quartz watches too, they don't really break down. They're actually really, as much as I get money for working on these things, if I were to recommend a watch just purely for timekeeping, a quartz watch is a much better watch at the end of the day.
Wow. Grandpa's real good about getting out of the anime conversation, but
He's talking about those,
yeah. I'm curious. Well, you said nerd culture. Is that sort of the all-encompassing term? What would you say the word is for people that go to Dragon Con, for example, are really interested in that culture?
I would say it's nerd culture. The thing about Dragon Con that I really like is that it's people who aren't afraid to be themselves. You can connect with people there over these things that they're passionate about, and a lot of people don't accept them in the regular culture because they're so passionate about it, and people think it's weird, But when you go to Dragon Con, you meet some of the sweetest people. What I really like about Dragon Con in particular, and I haven't been to as many other conventions, is you can bump into somebody literally, physically, and they will turn around, and it'll be completely your fault, and they'll turn around and apologize to you. I've seen that happen a million times, just over the years, where people are just so sweet there. I enjoy people who are kind of on the fringe, even if it's not necessarily what I'm into, because I like unique people. I like people who, like I said, aren't afraid to be themselves and enjoy what they enjoy. And I think Dragon Con is a very good hub for that. People are just different, and I like it when people embrace that.
Is Dragon Con pretty much the same as Comic Con?
It's similar. Comic Con is focused on comic books. Dragon Con is everything. It's books, movies, anime, video games. It actually started off as a Dungeons and Dragons thing, which I've played, but I'm not like, once again, I'm not super deep into that. I've played it. I'd like to play it more, but I haven't played it a lot. The big difference between Dragon Con and Comic Con that I know about is that Comic Con is more, you go there, there's industry people go to the panels and stuff, and that's kind of it. Dragon Con is like a big celebration. It's also a kind of a party, and you can go around the streets and people are just like dressed up and having fun, and there's like dances and all sorts of stuff. I will say in the last few years, this year is actually kind of better because I think the people that really wanted to go were dedicated. But before coronavirus, it was starting to get so big with people that were coming just to kind of gawk and be there for the party. And the guys that are just there as a in their costumes, kind of going to a costume party, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the really dedicated people are the people you can just kind of like walk up and talk to about anything, and they'll just be like the sweetest people, but they'll have like a crazy costume on, you know.
Have you guys heard of Dragon Con before today?
I had it, but I've never been. I didn't know what all was like what it entailed though.
Got you. Yeah, for me, I'd been to Comic-Con before, and I met Michael at Dragon Con actually, but I had been to Comic-Con and was really hoping that I would like it, and then it wasn't really my thing, and I went to Dragon Con, and it was everything I ever dreamed of. It was like one of the most like beautiful, fun, exciting weekends like of my life. So,
do you keep any Komodo dragons there?
Yeah,
a lot of people dressed as dragons.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, oh, cool. Well, I do have a question for you, Michael. Something that piqued my interest when you were first doing your intro. You were talking about how you're not religious, but you have faith, or you have faith. Was that something that you're talking about? This,
yeah.
Does that tie into your whole Dragon Con thing?
I would say everything I do flows from the spirit, but and I try to be spirit led in everything I do. I do believe in Jesus, but I just don't like what people do to kind of make him harsh and like critical and judgmental. I don't like all that, because that's not what his message is. I kind of stay away from a lot of the organized churches just because there's, and I don't want to get too deep into that because I don't want to get into like offending people and their religions and stuff. But for me, it's all about God loves me right where I'm at. I don't need a physical church. I don't need, and that doesn't mean I don't need fellowship, but I don't have to be like, I grew up Catholic, and they have a lot of rules that I just don't agree with. And if people are Catholic, that's fine. I mean, sometimes my dad gets mad about that, but it's like, he's with me every day. When I'm at Dragon Con, I personally feel like I would not have met Brandon if it wasn't for the leading of the Holy Spirit, because I was led to say like, hey, the reason I'm here is because I like one of the biggest things for Dragon Con for me is the voice acting. I enjoy voice acting. And then Brandon's like, hey, I do voiceovers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Because I just felt like that's something I should say. So I try to let everything that I do be spirit led, without being like, you got to do this many prayers and you got to do this many things in order to be loved by God. I don't think that that's necessary. I think when you realize God loves you, that's how you break the chains of your addictions. That's how you break the chains of your lack of confidence, your maybe resentment towards people, because you realize something. He loves me right where I am in this very moment, wherever I am. And that doesn't mean that there's like things we don't practice or do practice. It just means that when I fail, I know I have something to catch me. And that to me, that's what faith is. And that's why I said I'm a man of faith and not religion. I don't even know if I should have brought that up for this podcast, but
well, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, it's kind of, it's tangential. A lot of people that watch, a lot of people that I've met that are like anime or go to conventions and stuff like that, they always have a unique viewpoint on religion and spirituality. So I thought it was something going on together with it. That's why you brought it up, but no.
Yeah, cool. I just kind of brought it up because that's who I am. If that makes sense. I don't know if that was appropriate, and I'm sorry if it
No,
wasn't.
no,
no.
totally good.
I was just asking because I heard it. But
Okay.
Why do you say that, Phines? I've not heard that before. That's interesting.
I mean, even myself that likes a lot of anime and mangas, when I read them, I get like I take them real spiritually sometimes. You know, a lot of these stories are like the hero story or the story of someone against some antagonist against, I mean, a protagonist against something bigger than themselves or something unbeatable. And that could also be looked at as life itself. And so a lot of these mangas and animes, I relate to the main characters a lot, so much so like it's like, oh, I'm looking like this is a prophet or something of some sort that I'm like, I want to be like this main character, like Aang from Avatar. It's not a manga, but I like him so much, and he was basically a prophet, right? He was like Jesus or something.
I do draw a lot of inspiration from that stuff. I get leadings from the Holy Spirit to watch certain things, and because I get what you're trying to say more now.
Oh,
I
thanks.
do get leadings to watch certain things, and I feel like it encourages me to practice certain, like righteousness, right? You know, to love others, to defend the weak, to, you know, help people who are downtrodden. I think that's the essence of faith. That's why I say I'm a man of faith and not religion, because religion is essentially, I got all these rules I got to keep. And if I don't keep these rules, you're whatever, right? Like you're not doing the right thing. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like there are certain things, like I don't think it's right to murder people, you know, like I don't think anyone thinks that's right. But at the same time, like if somebody does that, that doesn't mean they can't be forgiven for it, you know, if they really change from their heart. I think it's all about the heart at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, it gets deep. What you about to say, Brandon?
Oh no, this ties back, but when I was at Dragon Con, there's all these panels and stuff, and one of them was by he worked for Marvel. He was like one of the comic book drawers or whatever, and it was visual storytelling. So he was talking about movies, he was talking about all that. He kept talking about like, why are we all obsessed with like the hero's journey? You know, like every story has the same like beginning, middle, end, and like climax and whatever it is, you know. I didn't like the answer that he gave of why he thought that was that way, but I think it's almost very similar with religion too, right? It's like that's what salvation is. That's what.
Well, it's even funny we're talking about that. I'm reading The Man with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. You know, it's that book that the guy that made Star Wars raves about so much.
Yeah, I think that it's like also that he wrote a book called The Hero's Journey. Is that the same guy?
Exactly. Yeah. And in that book, they really do break down to quite like all these like religious stories and these mythology stories and kind of why we're so interested in the hero story. Which is because we're selfish and humans and we think we're all special and stuff. And there's more to it than that. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, that seems like what I'm getting from it, which is like we all want to figure out what we're doing here in life, and we're trying to make a reason for it, and it's because we're a hero and we're the chosen one, and we have to explain why.
he said it's because we go through like every day is a hero's journey, you know, like the car breaks down and then you gotta fix it and you get over it and it feels like insurmountable. But I don't know. What do you think, Grandpa?
Well, you know, I have a different philosophy or, you know, spiritual thoughts. I believe that the creation, the mind is creating all of my awareness, and in a sense, I'm a puppet of the mind. This is the illusion of reality, this reality, worldly reality that we have. So people talk about the creator or God as though it's like a separate entity, or I see the mind as all of the physical things, including myself humanly, as the creation of the mind, and it's all being controlled by the creator's mind, everything.
Yeah. Why do you think people are like so obsessed with the hero's journey, and every movie follows the similar formula and every book and every story that we tell is someone going on a journey.
Who's your question directed to?
To grandpa.
That's too complicated for me, Brandon. Ask your guest.
You just said the most esoteric shit I've ever heard in my life, and then you're like,
yeah, well,
books.
you know what I've discussed it with you before, but you're asking me why people are obsessed with every book and everything that goes on. I think a lot of what goes on today is kind of promulgated by the media. That's one thing. But people are all different. Some people are obsessed, some people aren't. People are all different, and there's a lot of things that were similar like, but there are a lot of things that there are differences.
I
So
don't.
you may be obsessed, but doesn't mean everyone.
I don't think you can tell a story that isn't about humans, like even if it's about like robots or mechanism or microbes. If you still picture a human twist on it, like, oh, if it was a human it felt like this, or it has these feelings and these emotions. I don't think we would even be bothered with it if it was so foreign to the hero condition, or the human emotions and stuff. Like I just don't. Even if we heard, like, I think humans would do it anyway. Like, if we heard like computers just beeping, right? We'd probably go, I bet that one's saying this. And then it would have to do with an emotional relationship or humanistic things, because that's, what we are. I mean, I don't know. I think that's why that is the hero journey. The hero story is just something that humans are. It's just the same human story that we're always going to talk. Like, I'm trying to put this in words.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's like, it's such a specific, it's almost like a formula, and I agree that it is human, but I'm surprised that like that's the way that we've decided to tell stories.
I don't think we're creative enough to do anything other than that. I don't think we could tell a story from any other point of view but those 6 point of views, because we're so silly.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I don't think that the ending of stories, and I'm including music and lyrics. I've noticed how, which is uncomfortable to me, how music the ends now with, it seems like it ends without like a final note in a lot of music, which is something new. So things are not actually always the same. And I'm sure that I'm not well read, other than more in technical things, but I'm sure that there's some similarity in writings as well.
Yeah, I think what you said before about the robot, like, think about R2D2, right? Like, people listen to R2D2 and his beeps, and it's like, you get what he's saying. There's like an emotional resonance with what he's saying. It's like, right. R2D2 makes these beeps, and you're like, oh, he's got an attitude.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, we will always do that. That's just it. Go, sorry, Brandon.
No, one of the best personalities in the whole franchise.
Yeah, for real. And all he did was beep.
Probably my favorite character, actually. Yeah.
Have you noticed, like, even if like stuff that we look at, like a car, the front of a car, or like a outlet that you plug, I don't know, a cord into, whatever, anything we see, we put it like a face to it. Go, oh yeah, that's eyes and a mouth. Like, oh yeah, that's a human. Or like, am I the only person that does that? Right.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. We look at anything and go, yeah, there's the face right there. And I'll go, no, it's not a face, really. It's just me putting a face on something. I don't know. It just makes me think about, like, again, how narcissistic humans are. We're just like we just really like ourselves.
Like in the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. I
bet
think
the moon. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything stupid. Nothing stupid.
I was gonna say, I think the hero journey is like a deeper yearning to see good prevail over, like, someone who's like selfless and righteous prevail over people who just take and take and take and take and have no qualms about, like, abusing others, right? Like, because certain things are not like black and white, but there are certain people who just practice taking. You know, they don't really have any concern about the needs of others. And I think that's when we see the world and how crazy it could be sometimes. I think there's a want to see somebody come in and kind of fix everything. And I think, you know, I have my personal beliefs, but I think that even in those stories, like even in an anime or even in Star Wars, like we want to see that happen. You know, you see somebody like, for instance, Anakin Skywalker, who was supposed to be the chosen one, turn bad because of his passions. But then at the end, his own son kind of redeems him. And I think when we see those kind of things, it really touches our hearts deep down, and we don't exactly know why. You know, like we can kind of postulate all day, but I think there is a yearning to see good win over evil in a lot of people's hearts. And in this world, and the thing is, it's not like I think I'm any better. There's times where I've done things and I look back and I'm like, man, I did that. Like I knew better than that, and I still did that. You know,
Yeah.
like,
You ever watch My Hero Academia?
yes.
What do
It's
you guys think of that?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I relate to the main character a lot because he tries to do the right thing, but sometimes like he's very like over emotional about it.
It's weird how, like, I don't know, it just feels so identifiable. You know, like just pictures on a screen, right, with voice actors. But I really like that one because like Naruto or whatever, like they were sort of, even if they started out like bad at whatever they were doing or incompetent, like he was always born to be great. Like he had, like, you know, he was the son of whatever. Whereas in that one, in My Hero Academia, he's like, through sheer like dreaming and wanting, he just like ran into a circumstance where like he could be great, you know, and they told him that he couldn't. There was no opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also another deep subconscious yearning, is like that want to be somebody that can really like help people or make a change, right? You know, and it's
Yeah.
like you live in a world sometimes where you feel so insignificant. Like Deku probably felt pretty insignificant when he's like, I don't have a quirk, I have no powers, you know.
Right.
And his mom's like, you can't do it, you know, like literally his own mom, like
Yeah.
she wanted the best for him, but she's like, I don't want you to get your hopes up. And I think sometimes like even parents will tell you like, don't get your hopes too high on certain things, because like I want you to succeed, but I don't want you to put your hope on something that's too wild, right? Because I've failed, you know.
Yeah.
I think that My Hero is very, very good. In my opinion, it's one of the better newer ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was actually considering doing Deku for Dragon Con at some point. I
Yeah.
just haven't gotten around to it.
I thought about doing Deco as well, because I have a little afro that if I put it out, look like his hair enough, it'll be okay. But yeah, no, I like that story. Yeah, that's what I like about anime so much. I think I'm trying to be so biased because there's some really good. Invincibles was great writing and a good story line, but animes do such a good job of telling those type of stories that are like nuanced, where it's like, oh, what is right and what is wrong, and the right decision. And I'm nerd. I'm on season 5 of Hunter x Hunter, and they're with the Chimera ants and whatever. It's kind of like it reminds me of Planet of the Apes, just basically of like these group of animals starting to get like a brain and consciousness and whatnot. But it really starts to like really splitting up the lines between who is good and bad. 'Cause first it was like, oh, the Chimera ants are bad, and then you start getting to like know them as people, and you're like, oh, not people, but things that have emotions and do things for right and wrong and have like feelings, and you're going, I don't know if this is okay to kill this thing. I like that type of stuff. At least
Yeah. I mean, Hunter x Hunter is great. I love Hunter x Hunter. That is like a heart-wrenching arc. And I think it's like you said, like sometimes, and that's why, you know, I really don't believe in, and everybody judges sometimes, but I try my best not to judge, because you don't know what somebody's been through. You don't know what somebody's feeling. You don't know that somebody that lashed out at you that day may have lost everything. You know, maybe their child, maybe you don't know that. Maybe somebody got into an accident earlier that day, and then you go to like order food, and they got an attitude, and you're like, man, that guy's a jerk. And then you're like, wow, actually, I didn't know that this person just lost their house and is trying to like get back on their feet, right? You know, you don't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's like I think it's interesting.
We only have 15 minutes left from Grandpa, but I'm super curious. Two things. One, three. What do you think about this conversation, Grandpa? Do you have anything that like feels as like electric, like art wise, that we're talking about? And then I don't know, what can we do to convince you to fall in love with one of these? I'm curious what like Phines or Michael would think would be a good anime for Grandpa.
The Bible.
Yeah.
Well,
He's about to go to Yom Kippur dinner. So.
Oh yeah.
I would have to ask
The Torah.
There you are.
you what Shakespeare meant when he said that there is no good or bad or evil, just what men make of things. What did he mean by that?
I think that's because like perspective is so important, right? Like sometimes, and that's why I try, like I said, I try not to judge, because sometimes you might think somebody's a jerk, and then it's like really like that's the conditioning of their life. You know, you don't know that. I do think there are certain things that people do where it's like it's clearly like you're not treating people right. But there's other times where it's like, sometimes some people do things because that's how they were raised, or that's the perspective they've been taught in. That was their religion. That's their whatever view, or maybe just some ingrained DNA thing, right? Like, I don't know. There's a lot to learn from just watching people, I think sometimes.
So you want me to get to like anime, right? Is that the whole idea of this thing?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we're talking about it, but I don't see it. I don't know what we're talking about. I mean, I know it's a cartoon.
Let's play. We can find a 30-second. I don't know if Michael, Sierra, or Phines have thought of any, but we can pull anything up, and then I'd be really curious to have a little.
Is this like an old time cartoon in a newspaper?
I was thinking about how I would explain this, because we got kind of caught into philosophy, but if I were to explain anime to you without a clip right now, it would be like, take Popeye the Sailor, take a serial, like an old time serial, like film serials, like the kind that every episode you would end on like a cliffhanger, and then take like maybe some kind of drama, even a soap opera to some extent, and you kind of mix all those things together. Like Popeye the Sailor meets like the old film serials meets like, some kind of drama, and then put all those things together and then put a Japanese twist on it. And that's basically anime, because you've got the very wild imagination of the Japanese. You've got a lot of like heroes versus villains. But the thing about anime, it's not really just a genre. It is a medium. So it's kind of a style to some extent. It's basically like the Japanese animation. So you can have something like Dragon Ball, which is the prototypical. When most people talk about anime, we're talking about like shonen. Shonen is the kids anime, or not kids, but young boys, right? And that's like the kind of good versus evil stuff. But there's a lot of anime that is really just like somebody making a story. And you'll have anime from Dragon Ball, like good versus evil, the hero's journey, to something like Welcome to the NHK, which Welcome to the NHK is about like a shut-in who's not doing anything with his life, who's kind of ruined his life, and watching this character's imagination put him in the hole that he's in. And then I'm not going to spoil it, but at the end he's kind of like forced to face his life. Or you can have an anime about baking bread. So anime is like a very wide genre. If I were to recommend something, I would recommend something like Studio Ghibli, because I think that's a good starting point. Because
is that anime, would you say?
It is, because it's Japanese, but it's not like it's an anime film, right? It's not like the anime. When people say anime, they're typically talking about something like Dragon Ball. So it's like that. But I think if I were to think of a clip to try to show, I forgot to look for one. I'm sorry, Brandon.
No. It's all free flow.
Does anime appeal more to males than females? And if so, what is the reason for that?
Yes and no. Yes, that what most anime, the mainstream anime does, but there is a specific genre called shoujo, and that is specifically for younger girls, and those are typically romance stories, what girls are typically into. But anime that gets put here, I would say it does appeal more to males because it is kind of like fighting, right? A lot of it's like I'm going to fight the bad guy and beat him at the end, and I think that's why it appeals more to boys here.
I would say probably there's more anime created targeted towards male audiences, but not more male fans than females. But I don't know.
I would.
That's
Would
anecdotal.
Phines do anime? Phines, do you draw this sort of thing?
No, I don't draw anime.
No.
The type of art that they, you know what though, I would love to not learn how to draw that art form, but I like how they talk about storytelling. I enjoy mangas and how they storytell. Like they focus more on like, like the surroundings and aspects and stuff, and they take they're slower. It's not so action based, all the time, which I appreciate. But no, I don't know if I do that art form. I like the black and white. They do their mangas are in black and white a lot of the times, and I like that look.
I think one of the biggest difference between American comic books and like Japanese manga is the fact that it's just one guy telling one story. Usually, I mean, Naruto and Dragon Ball ended up being picked up by somebody else later, but I think one of the things about like American comic books is that you'll get one character and they kind of become fodder for whoever in that company wants to write that story, right? Like somebody wants to write a Batman story and they work for DC. All right, go for it. And you might get a different Batman from that guy than you get from like somebody who's just writing Dragon Ball their whole life, and that's Dragon Ball. Yeah. And eventually like it is becoming a little bit of a trend now that like people are passing the torch, but that used to not be a thing at all.
Yeah.
Michael, before you familiarize yourself with anime, and I don't know how long you've been doing it, but did you have another interest similar to that?
I've always liked cartoons, like period. I love animation in general.
Okay.
I think that like even when I was a little kid, I liked Popeye. I liked just any kind of animation, SpongeBob, all that stuff. I think that there's always been an attachment to the idea of there's a blank slate and I can draw anything that my mind can come up with, and seeing what people can come up with is a lot of what draws me to it. Is that creativity that like and I like film too, don't get me wrong. I like live action film, but I think one of the biggest differences is when you draw something and you animate it and you bring it to life, you could do almost anything. There's not really any limit. I can make an anime or a cartoon about anything. And same thing with games, but games, they have to actually be played. I like video games too. I like books too. And I think books also, they actually have almost less limits because you can write a book and it's just words on a page. Mm-hmm. And so like your imagination has to fill in those blanks. But with animation, one of the biggest things that drew me in, I think, is voice acting. I've always enjoyed watching these grown men do these weird voices and imagining them like having to get in a studio and just
screaming.
I watched a very interesting documentary. I actually watched it again the other day called I Know That Voice. And it starts off with Mel Blanc. They just talk about Mel Blanc for like the first 5-10 minutes because he was the guy that did all of the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And really nobody's actually matched him since then. I think he still is the top voice actor of all time. And that's saying something because there's a lot of talented people. But like Looney Tunes is a good example of what animation can do because it's silly. It's not really serious, but you could do anything with it. I think one of the reasons why I like anime though is that Western cartoons are great, but anime sometimes has stories that really hit you like deep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes they have stories like you can have something like one of my favorites is there's a boxing anime called Hajime no Ippo, and that's a really good one. It's not one that's very well known, but it's literally about a guy that was kind of he was beat up, he was bullied, he was not really accepted, and somebody who ends up becoming like a champion comes and saves him while he's getting beat up, and the guy like takes him to his gym because the guy's passed out, and he lets him hit the bag because he's like, I know you just got beat up, this is probably frustrating, take a hit at this bag. And then he sees this guy's got like a power punch, so the kid becomes like obsessed with the idea of becoming a boxer, and he does it, and he becomes a great boxer. And it's grounded in reality. A lot of it is actually about real boxing techniques. There's very little that's like over exaggerated, because some anime really is just like very exaggerated. This anime, there's only like once or twice where they did something that was unrealistic. Most of the time they're kind of sticking with real technique, and there are some animes that actually will teach you about real things. Because the person that writes the manga, or that writes because most anime comes from the manga, which is the comic book. But that's a really good one. I would recommend that one. I don't know if it's a great beginner anime, but that's a really good one. If I were to recommend something to Grandpa for like just getting into it, I think Cowboy Bebop, because that's
That'd be nice.
Cowboy Bebop.
yeah.
Hey, we can
Okay.
play a 30-second clip of Cowboy
Something
Bebop.
like the movie The Incredibles. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
That would have nothing to do with anime.
Not necessarily. No.
Animation, but not anime. No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
animation.
Anime is Japanese, or right? Just is more Japanese, right? But I think Japanese animation is anime, correct?
Yep, essentially. That's why it's like that's why I would call it more of a medium than a genre. Because within anime, you have stuff from horror to action to romance to just about anything. You could find almost anything. And you know, Grandpa, you may never find something that like will pull you into anime as a culture, but you'll definitely, if you look, you can find at least one that speaks to you in some way or another, because it's just so wide. You know,
I agree. I started off in comics, and I still love comic books, and I still read them, but manga's really won me over, and I'm really brand new to animes, but animes are really starting the same way. I'm starting to really enjoy them, but the stories are so good, man.
I know when I was a child, I was really hooked on people like on comics like Superman and Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman and those kind of types of comic books.
I never knew that about you till the podcast, Grandpa.
Well, I'm talking about when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
See, I'm like a 12-year-old that's also like a 60-year-old. In some ways, I'm like very old. In other ways, I'm super young and like below my years. I'm to be honest, the thing I'm least like is a 29-year-old, which is what I'm actually am.
You sound mature.
I am mature in so many ways, but in some other ways, it's like, you know, I'm sitting here watching cartoons and just laughing and enjoying it. And, you know, it's like,
well, why is it that it's immature to watch cartoons?
Well,
that's very interesting to me.
I don't think it is actually immature, but I think the world sees it as that. You know what I mean?
Like, Grandpa, when you think of someone that watches cartoons as an adult, what do you think?
I really haven't thought about it. I don't see any problem with it.
That's good.
I think whatever you enjoy in life. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say goodnight to everybody. Brandon and Phines and Sierra and Michael, I enjoyed this session with you guys, but I do have to go.
Yes.
You guys have a good one.
Happy Yom Kippur. We'll see you on air next week, Grandpa.
Yeah, happy Yom Kippur.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I don't know how to turn this thing off.
Yeah, no. You see the big red button?
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Got
It's self-destruct.
It's like that Ren and Stimpy episode where he's like, "Don't push the button. Is the history eraser button?"
Yeah. Would always push the button. Is Sarah still here?
I think she is. 1, 2, 3, 4. I agree. Well, I understand the my parents, my mom, my dad's pretty okay with it, but I have always been pretty passionate about animated stuff and comic books, essentially, really. And my mom's always been like, "You're gonna grow out of it. You're gonna grow out of it." And I even got into books for a little bit because of the like a little bit of the pressure. But I've always been, and I still went right back to comics. And then now here I am, like really wanting to draw and make comics. And my mom's still like, "He'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
he'll get into real books."
That's what we say about Grandpa. Yeah.
But it really is like making movies though. The more I get into the world, the more and more I learn more about comics and like the art of it. I'm just like, this is just like movies. It's like
Yeah.
it's a mix between movies and books. Like what Michael was saying is exactly that. Like it's like giving your reader the freedom to like read and imagine, but then you also get like the like filmmaking, which is like you're also entertaining and positioning all this to make them get this message, you know. It's pretty cool. I didn't.
When I went to this panel at Dragon Con, I was shocked how much I was like, oh, comic books are just like storyboards for movies. Like that's why they. I think you might have said that. That's why they translate so well, right?
Yeah.
To film, yeah.
I actually saw I went to like this one convention. It was like some weird version of Comic Con for Atlanta that was kind of bootleg. I really don't really know if it's like, because it's not really like the same people that did the New York Comic Con and the San Diego Comic Con. So I don't get that. It's kind of weird, but they did get Billy West from Futurama to guess. So they got some kind of pull. And they also got Mario, the guy that did Mario. Something Martinez. I can't remember his name, but I went there and I saw this guy that was like a storyboard artist, and it was interesting some of the things he was talking about, because especially in Japan, like the storyboard is what they start with. They start with what you can see first, and after that they kind of fill in the dialogue. And I here it's more like you get the script and then you storyboard, but your storyboard is so important. And that really like helped me to understand that, because he's like, yeah, like, you know, I've done storyboarding from things to like from commercials to actual, you know, big budget films. And yeah, like once you have like a manga or a comic book, it's like, okay, there's a recipe for a movie right there. You know, it's easy. I mean, nothing's easy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Then you just start voicing it, and there you go. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if Sierra is like on mic today, but she's a really talented voiceover actor, and I know it's like a big dream of yours to get into it. I'm sure she has a lot of good tips, but maybe for another day.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be down to sit down and chat, because this has been a lot of fun. I enjoy this kind of stuff. I always wanted to be on a podcast too. So that was thank you,
welcome.
Brandon.
I hope it was.
You have the voice for it, and you have the personality. Come on.
Yeah, you do. You've been really great so far.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I was a little, you know, when you haven't done something before, you're like, I'm a little bit nervous, but you know, I just put that aside and I said, I'm just gonna hop on and be me.
I think. I mean, you're a big cosplayer, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it. You know, I haven't done as much as like some people have. So far, I've done about 4 or 5 costumes. So I've done my most popular costume, the one that gets me the most like attention, is the Obi-Wan. So like it's like a full-on Jedi costume. People really like that one. JoJo's been pretty popular. I want to augment it though, because like the hat's not quite right. I was actually going to order this one from Russia, and then it was like after that not Comic-Con, after Dragon Con of 2019, so it was like 2020, and all of a sudden, you know, everything's just like going to crap, and you know, it's like, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm going to get it within a few months. You know, I don't even know if I'm going to get it, because like you order it from SD and it's like, now I don't know if I'm going to get it. But I did Obi-Wan, I did JoJo, I did Law from One Piece. People who watch One Piece will know who that is. That's you have to be like 1,000 episodes in though to know who he is. And then there's I also did Spike, but it was a really like, I got recognized, but it was just an okay Spike. It was literally me buying like a very cheap blazer and then like taking some black electric tape and folding the jacket like halfway in and just like taping it with the little, so I'd have the little stripes. And like my hair is really super thin back then, so when I look at it, I'm like, oh, these photos are cringy.
That's hilarious. Hey, you got to do it though. I'm not really good at cosplay. I like cosplaying. I'm not committed enough. Like I'll go out there and do it, and then people are like, "What are you?" And I go, "Come on, it's obvious, isn't it?" And it's like nothing near what it's supposed to be.
I did my first cosplay ever over the Dragon Con weekend for the first. I've never even dressed up non-acting wise, and I got stopped like 7 times.
You did a good job. I mean, for like throwing it together, you and Fiona look great together, I thought.
It's crazy because I always thought it like people that cosplay, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Michael, but it's like really like bold. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like doing this whole thing. And then I went there in normal clothes, and I'm like, oh no, I am the odd one out here. Like I look like a weirdo.
It does feel
in a
that
tank
way.
top amongst like
I really like it too. I like getting dressed up. Like there's nothing wrong with like, it's fun to get dressed up sometimes.
It's so freeing. I mean, I was just like thinking like, why can't every day be like this, Like Halloween, like that feeling that people get during Halloween where they're like finally free for a night. Like that's what I felt like.
Yeah. I won't get philosophical because I always do, but
I do
we can
too,
talk
man.
about this, man. I think it's all about humans are weird, bro. We like to get dressed up and do like this has been going on since the beginning of time. Like we're like think if we're talking about like animes and the story, hero stories, whatever. I just imagine like maybe the first Comic-Con was people dressing up like Jesus in the whatever textbook it was, and goes, I'm Peter and I'm Paul and I made this here. I made this is
and they called it church.
Yeah, it's like here I am. I am Zeus. I am mighty Thor.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's more of a costume.
Isn't that great that Thor has been around for people were cosplaying as him 2 weeks ago, but then also maybe hundreds of years.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, honestly, I always thought it was so weird that Thor is just like randomly in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
it does kind of make it unfair. Like I do remember when I first was reading Marvel and going, the reason why I like Marvel or DC is because Marvel's more realistic, and DC's got all this like Martian Man and Superman, and it's just too much. And then I start reading into Marvel and I go, oh, they have the God here.
Yeah, like you get deep and you're like, oh wait, they have like Eternals and stuff.
Yeah.
Like Marvel has some weird. Like I am not like super versed, but for some reason, when I was like a teenager, I was trying to get into it. I didn't know where to start, so I would read like Wikipedia articles and like Yahoo Answers and stuff about like superhero stuff because I didn't know where to start. Like manga is so much easier. It's like, oh, start from volume 1. Okay, if I start from volume 1 of Batman, like I'm gonna be reading a lot.
Yeah, that is true.
But it's like, oh my gosh, like you start reading and you're like, I didn't know that there was all this weird stuff in Marvel. Like, it's kind of cool though. I mean,
Hey, why do you think there is, or I guess there was more so than now, but like a huge stigma around nerd culture and stuff? Like if you were into comics or whatever, like it's a big topic for people getting bullied and all that kind of stuff. And now it's more maybe accepted.
I don't know why it's all of a sudden accepted. It might just be just the generation, getting used to it. But I think a lot of it is like when you don't conform to what the world tells you to do, people think you're weird and they reject you and they bully you. And that's one of the reasons why I think I'm into it, is because it's sort of fringe. I don't fit in. I can like camouflage myself into the whatever situation, but I don't really fit in with any particular group. And I think that's why I like Dragon Con so much. It's like I can come in and talk to Brandon. I can come in and talk. Like, I don't know if I told you about this, Brandon, but I actually got quote unquote kidnapped by a group of like 40-something-year-old men who were like, we like you and we want you in our group. So they did the whole booty warrior speech at one point.
That's what I thought about. I was like, this doesn't sound like booty warriors.
He actually did say it near the end. He's like, when they were like, okay, you're coming with us. And then I was like, all right. And he's like, I likes you and I want you. And I was like, damn.
What is Booty Warriors?
It's from Boondocks. Well, it's not really from Boondocks, but it's from real life.
it's probably not appropriate to talk about.
I don't know.
Got you.
It's some really intense stuff. You should look it up.
Is that the group that you told me you had a really deep Jesus Christ, philosophical conversation at the end of one of the Dragon Con nights?
Yeah, there was this guy named Alan, and he's a really interesting guy that looks like a damn like Norse warrior or something. Like he's got like a twisted beard and like all this stuff, and he's like got blue piercing eyes. But one night after everybody left, I was just talking to him, and he's like, yeah, like I don't know. See, that's why I believe like even though he's not really like into the same things I'm into in terms of my faith, I do believe God speaks to anybody in a certain moment. You can use anything to talk to you. And I was going through a lot of stuff that I'm not going to get into a lot of details with, but I was considering cutting certain people off. And like some people I do have to stay away from because it's just too much. And it's dragging me down with it. But he was telling me like,
Or what?
yeah, it's just too much like arguing about petty stuff, and I'm not a drama person. I don't do that, and I waited for a long time for this person to change, and I'm like, it's too much. But he was basically like, don't give up on anybody. I'm just gonna sum it up. He was just like, don't give up on anybody. Let your light shine, but don't ever change for anybody. And I liked what he was saying because he's basically saying, don't give up on people. Don't just like be quick to cut people off, but at the same time, don't let people change you. He's like, you may never know if your light is the only light in that person's life. If you're the only person that's putting good things into somebody's life, and that they may need to hear what you have to say, but at the same time, don't let them change you into what they want you to be, right? And that's a very hard path. And he even said like, that's a very hard path. And I was like, yeah, that is a hard path because you get around people and there's a pressure to conform. There really is. And I've done it. Everybody's done it to some extent, I think, where you're like, I'm not going to say this thing because I don't want to shake the group up or whatever. But it's like when you can really live authentically and just connect to people, I think that's such a freeing thing. Because like you can say something to somebody, but here's where my faith comes in. I always think it has to be done in love. Because there are so many people who go in and they might be right, but the way they say it is so offensive and so like not good. Jesus had a saying, you will know them by their fruit. Does a fig tree bear thorns? So if somebody's always pricking you and hurting you on purpose, kind of, even if what they're saying is kind of true, are they really like doing it out of good intentions? Because some people might say, well, I was saying it in love, and it's like, yeah, but you said it like condemningly, you know. It's like what you're saying might be true. I might need to not do this thing or talk to these people or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. But if you do that without seasoning your words with grace, without letting your words be seasoned with grace, like I need to know that I make mistakes. I don't know everything. I'm sometimes completely stupid. I cannot treat people like they are always bad or good. I have to know that sometimes it's a gray area and you need to like give people the grace to just be themselves and not judge them, right? And not like you can give somebody like there are times where you have to say something like, hey man, let me pull you aside for a second and tell you like this isn't right. But you have to do it with love. If you don't do it with love, then what are you doing? You know, that's my personal thing. I think. Yeah. You know,
I don't like fighting. I think I'm just like too naturally agreeable of a person, which I'm working on, and I don't like. But I think I love talking to people that I feel really differently about things with. You know, like just different viewpoints. Where I'm like, what the, you know, whatever. Yeah, it's fun and it can be in like, you know.
I agree 100%. I think that's why like one of the people I was talking about that I had to kind of cut off is like he literally at one point said basically here's what, and it was so petty. Here's what happened. So if I invited a friend of mine to his house and she said something about like the Hulk could be Batman, which I mean, if you put the Hulk in a cage, he's going to tear Batman to shreds, right? Like, you know, like if you put them in a cage match, Batman's not going to win unless he has like 100 hours prep time and all this other stuff. So it's like, you know, Batman, and it doesn't really matter. It's such a not important conversation. But she was saying that, and he's like, "Oh, take that back." And so they got into like this argument, and that's fine, you know, whatever. But then when she left, he was like, "Oh, I noticed you can let people have their opinions." To me, he's like, I noticed you can let people have your opinions. I can't do that." And after that, that was a red flag, and I was like, "I'm watching you," because that is a very worrying statement. Like, you can't let people have their opinions. What do you mean? Like that's weird. Like, it's one thing to be like, you're wrong factually. It's another thing to be like, well, your opinion's different than mine, and I'm going to shut you down. You know?
Yeah. It's you know, opinions are like what is it? Like an asshole, everyone has one. And he's like, no, that's gross. Not everyone.
Yeah.
Only me.
I've said that recently. I was like, yeah, opinions are like assholes, and everybody has one. And most of them are shitty. Let's just be honest.
And this guy thought it was like, hey, I need to take this away from people. That I'm the only person that needs an asshole.
Yeah.
Keep your asshole clean. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I love hearing people's different opinions, even on like things that are like kind of sensitive sometimes. As long as people are saying it in like a reasonable tone, and they're not just being like a jerk about it, I actually enjoy hearing that stuff, because it's like, huh, I never thought of it that way. I mean, that Alan guy I was talking about, he literally says like, I am a god amongst men and all this other stuff, and like he's like, I know more about your religion than my own, but like his friend, one of the guys I met, Mike, who's his friend, who they know him before I did, was like, yeah, the only way you're gonna understand his religion if you like watch like a 4-hour Wagner piece. And I'm like, what does Wagner have to do with anything? I don't understand it, but I respect it. I'm not really sure what he was talking about. Like the guy, like I think he like worships like Thor or something. I have no clue. He's like some kind of weird like paganistic religion, and I'm like, you know what? You're a fun guy to talk to. I really don't care what your beliefs are, as long as you respect me. You know?
Yeah. I like hearing people out. I think it's just important to talk about things. Even the more difficult it is, probably the more reason it should be talked about amongst people. Just because I think it's kind of silly when people keep it all hidden, and I'm like, I don't know. It just is like, we're all probably thinking it. It's okay to talk about it. Let's all talk about this thing. But it's uncomfortable to hear about it. And I think, again, I got a lot of opinions about the whole thing. Like, we just,
Phines and I have gotten into this before.
Yeah. We think we're so special too, humans. And like, oh, I'm so different than everyone else that I can't tell them that I have this feeling. And then I'll be like, you know, you're not that special, because everyone has a feeling. We all thought about suicide. We all have been depressed. We've all, you know, thought about all these negative things. But yet we think we're not. We think we're like so weird than everyone else. And we're so worried about saying anything about it. And it just seems so not beneficial for our whole race of people.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear about Norm Macdonald?
Oh yeah,
No, I haven't.
Yeah. He was my favorite comedian. Rest in peace. He just passed away yesterday, and he was a genius. But he had cancer for the last 9 years, and nobody knew that he was sick. He like kept it to himself, you know, almost as like one big final troll or whatever. But he talked about how he didn't like people that would like use their diagnosis to make a buck or something like that. And this is all clips where nobody had any idea that he had cancer, and he was talking about himself, you know. And so he made it to the end without ever letting anybody know, you know. It's like it's like pretty shocking. But
I mean, I feel that too. I mean, that's the reason why it's like it's all balanced, because I am imperfect, and I feel like times where I don't want to tell anybody anything. I don't want to bother people with my information, or I think I am too different. Like, look, even with philosophical talks, I'm like, man, I don't want to start talking philosophical again. I kill the mood. People don't want to be bothered by it. Like, leave it alone. Sometimes that, you know, that's also I don't know, this fear, just gotta, sometimes you just gotta be yourself and go, hey, hey,
Yeah.
this is who I am.
Yeah,
And I
I
love talking
100%
about it.
agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. It's funny. I have a tendency to keep things to myself, so it's like I totally understand that, and I'm trying to break through that even more and more. Sometimes that could be like wildly authentic, and then I think it surprises people, and then other times it's like you don't know I'm struggling with this, this, and this. But one of the things that, like I said, I like to be spirit led, and one of the things I felt like the Holy Spirit, and people are going to think I'm like a weirdo, but one of the things I felt like the Holy Spirit was
No.
leading me to was Frozen, because Elsa isolated herself
Oh yeah, that is a
because
good
she was
story.
like a weirdo, right? Like she had like
Yeah.
these powers that people didn't understand, and she thought everybody would like crucify her essentially.
Yeah.
And it was funny how I didn't really want to watch Frozen, but I kept getting this nagging feeling that I should. And I watched it, and it was like, man, this made me realize something. Like this isolation is unhealthy. You know?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, oh man, it goes all so deep because we're just talking about the stories of humans and the reason why we like reading them and the reason because we like connecting them with humans and talking to them. So even though you feel so different and disconnected from these humans, but this is what we really strive for. I mean, we want to be heard by them. We want them to hear our stories. We want to enjoy their stories as well. So you have to talk to them to be able to have that. But again, it's a double-edged sword because sometimes you're like, oh, humans, they're awful.
Yeah, they can be. And you have to be brave that way, because sometimes you'll think, man, everyone's gonna judge me, and then you like step out in faith, and you're like, wow, everybody loved it. People actually understood what I was saying.
Everyone loves me. I am a god.
Yeah. And then other times you're like, oh, people didn't get it at all. They're just their eyes glazed over. They don't understand what I'm talking about, but that's the risk,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think that's why Jesus spoke in parables, though, because people want to hear stories. Like they don't want to hear, yeah, man, you need to do this, this, and this. They want to just hear a good story that makes them think.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but like most. I think people like us.
I don't know. I would disagree and say I think everybody, even if they act like they don't and say I don't like stories and stuff like that. I just
You're probably right, to be honest.
I don't. It's just hard. That's one of my. There's a couple things that I'm like are certains in life, which not many things are certain. But that's one of the things that I think that is pretty certain is that humans really love stories.
I met a dude once who was like, I don't like music. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't like any of it. Like, I don't like hearing music.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
know.
I just feel like it's like that just seems off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did music do to you, man? What did it do to
For
you?
real. Yo, sorry, I
I
just spilled Gorilla Glue everywhere, so I needed to clean it
Oh,
up.
no.
But
Okay.
yeah. My bad.
Sometimes my dad says that, and I'm like, you're lying, because I know you like certain music. Because when I put on certain songs, like you're into it. So don't just say you don't like music. He doesn't like popular music. Like, don't
Yeah.
just say you don't like music. You don't like what most people like. So you say I don't like music. In his case, I don't know about this one guy that you met, Brandon, but in my dad's case, it's like, no, when I put on like this instrumental guitar music, that's like, what's funny is like a lot of it comes from Bleach, actually, which is an anime.
Yeah.
But it's like, I put on that like flamenco guitar, and he's into it, and it's like, then he'll like be at work and he'd be like, yeah, I don't like music. And I'm like, liar, dude, you like music. You're just saying that. I don't know, man. I do think, I think Phines is correct. I think I was being a little bit too hesitant to say everybody, because I'm so like, I want to make sure I'm giving room to the all the possibilities,
Yeah, I can tell we have a little bit in common with that. But also I thought about that and going, I don't know, man. There's this stories are
they're universal.
Yeah, I'm so biased. I mean, I love stories, so I'm like, oh, stories are everything, but they kind of are, people. Yeah.
Yeah, because some people may not like anime stories, and some people may not like TV, but you're gonna find somebody like even if they're just listening to people tell stories, like real story. Because some people are very grounded, I've noticed, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm very like, I could be practical, but I'm also very out there in like concepts and ideas and spirituality. And then there are people that, they'd rather just go to a bar and listen to a guy talk about like how he fix the rims on his truck. I don't know, something weird like that.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that type of person because they can get the same message that I get from this really deep story or this philosophical talk. They get the same thing from, oh man, I heard this dude tell a story about bologna sandwich, and that whole time he can understand what he gets from that story could be a lot of different things. Who's to say?
But there's something so truthful about bologna sandwiches.
Yeah,
it's full of bologna.
I
think it's the deeper truth.
Because when you eat it, you're full of bologna.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Do you guys? And we're coming towards the end of time, but I wanted to ask this a while ago. Do you feel like your inner lives match your outer exterior, like what people view you as?
Sometimes. I actually there's one of the songs that I also felt like the spirit led me to, which was Mulan. And there's a song, and like I said, I'm such a weirdo that way. And she's like singing about like, when will my reflection match who I am inside? And there are times where I do feel like that, where I'm like, when is the person I'm looking at in the mirror going to be the person that I feel like is deep down there? Sometimes I do, because like I feel like some people do get me and like it's there. And then other times I'm like, I'm just not there yet. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of it is like, one of the first steps is being here, talking on this podcast, doing something I've always just wanted to do. Just, like voice acting, all the stuff that I've wanted to do that's deep inside of me that I haven't done yet. I'm not passionate about watchmaking. I'm thankful for it, but I'm not passionate about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that quote.
Man, there's so much good stuff that you said, and that I feel like you even listened to I know you haven't listened to the episode, because I was like, hey, Mulan soundtrack is dope, everyone. I remember on this podcast saying that, and I agree with this. It's pretty lyrically sound. They talk about some deep stuff in Mulan. Same thing with Moana. Moana has a very good soundtrack in it,
dude,
and
Moana.
it really pushes you onto like that whole. I keep thinking about like leaving your hometown, leaving what you know. But anyways, besides all that stuff, we're talking nerding out on. We're the same age. We're both 29, and I started illustrating or starting to learn how to draw and starting to really take it seriously at like 26. So I'm still like kind of brand new to it. And same thing with podcasting. I've always wanted to do it, and I just been doing it seriously for a year and some change. And
now you have 3 podcasts.
And I have 3 podcasts, and now like I'm drawing like all the time. I just drew Deanna Ross. Look at that. Bam. I don't know. It just, I do believe it just it's so cheesy, but I think that you believe it too. But it is that first step is the hardest and the most important step. Is just like, just go out there and you did it today, and hopefully tomorrow will get a little easier, which it most likely will.
Yeah, man. I just want to make something clear. How Far I'll Go has become one of my favorite songs of all time.
That's hilarious.
Just so you know, because when I said, oh my God, Moana, that might have sounded the wrong way. But I mean, like, that has actually become like one of my songs that I use to encourage myself when I feel kind of down.
Yeah. It's on my motivational playlist. And I think Reflections is on my motivational playlist for the Moana.
That's actually on mine too.
Look at us. Brandon?
Look at me now.
Yeah.
What was I just gonna say? Oh, just did you keep up with your schedule? Remember we talked about?
No, I wrote it and had to do a lot of different things. I burned myself out, but I found a good schedule. I found a good like medium.
And now you are keeping up with it like day after day.
Yeah, it's still easier said than done. Like, it's always easier to do a to-do list, but then you can, when you start doing it. But again, I sound like such a cheesy like motivational speaker, but the lesson is the more you try to do it, like shooting for the stars. If you miss, you can land amongst the clouds. Like, even when I look at all the stuff that like, even though I didn't set the schedule that I really wanted, or stick to the schedule I wanted, I still gained quite a bit, out of it. So.
Yeah. But you're still doing it,
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. I feel like you're like that, Michael. You're like one of these dreamers.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Everybody's a dreamer, though. Not everybody's a doer.
That's not true, dude. The dude that did not listen to music was very happy where he was.
That mofo dreams. He just don't want to face it. He just got to do some. Let him have some therapy lessons with them, and he'll go. He'll start crying. Like, "Ooh, I dream of making real music. All this stuff is not music."
He killed his dreams years ago with a bloody knife, a bloody jackknife. Like, I put those things to rest. They're never coming true.
Yeah.
Hey guys, on that, we just hit 6:30. We always do last thoughts on this show, Michael. Yeah. If either of you guys want to start.
I already gave my last thought.
Oh, did you?
I think my last thoughts is, man, like, always be true to yourself and just pursue the things, not even necessarily that make you happy in like a content kind of way, but the things that really bring you a deep satisfaction and joy, whether that's anime, whether that's film, whether that's cars, whether that's writing, whether that's voice acting. It doesn't really matter, because when you just try to conform to what people want you to be, you'll always feel like you're missing out. And I think there's something to be said about not even just pursuing like, fun things, but things that really make you feel like, wow, this is where I want to be. Because if you just give up and you say, well, I'm just going to be working at, nothing wrong with working at Target, but I'm just going to be working at Target the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like, that could be a stepping stone. You can use that as a stepping stone to your next thing. So basically, my final thoughts is, don't ever give up and pursue the things that bring you fulfillment and that you feel like you've always naturally been inclined towards.
Wow. I hope you keep pursuing your fulfillment, Michael.
Thank you. I've been working at it. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, come on. Anytime, dude. You're actually a very fantastic podcast guest.
Thank you. I'm willing to come on anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah, you're very well-spoken, smart, and keep the conversation going. So.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. My final thoughts are, I think it's really cool to have this thing and a dream or whatever it is, and when you're doing it, it's the reality of it is really hard, but there's something really beautiful in that. And I don't know why. I've never experienced this before. I don't even like the term celebrity or whatever. But Norm Macdonald, passing, really fucked me up in a weird way. More so than people that I've known. I mean, I just loved him so much, and a lot of what we talked about tonight has to do with what he did or what he talked about.
And dressing up like anime characters?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say cosplaying as Yu Yu Hakusho.
It's good to know.
I mean, I love you.
I don't know. I totally lost my fucking train of thought.
I mean, that Hiei with his little third eye, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You were RIP-ing somebody? Go ahead. What's up?
Nah, he's gone. It's done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, just that he would hate. He really didn't like sentimentality, right? And I don't like that I'm feeling sentimental about it. He would have liked and preferred jokes. But there's really something to be said for like being real, going on the hero's journey. I've completely lost my train of thoughts, and now I'm just bullshitting.
You're doing great.
But yeah, I miss him, and I love him, and thank you, Norm, for everything. So
rest in peace, man.
Yeah. I feel like Phines could do final thoughts again, but
final thoughts. I'm gonna start cosplaying. I'm gonna start cosplaying as religious figures from now on.
You gonna be the Apostle Paul?
Yeah.
Just go around with some kind of like weird infirmity. I don't know what the hell he had, but he has some kind of weird thing going on.
Yeah. I think that's the realization I came to today, and I think that Brandon has a type for friends because me and Michael are very similar as people. From like at least on surface level, I was like, what is Brandon? What does Brandon hang out with? And like a bunch of people that act alike.
You
50
would
points to
fucking
Slytherin.
love Dragon Con Finest. It's all a bunch of Michaels.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Basically.
Yeah.
I'll be the only Paul there then. Good. I can dress up. I don't know that many religious names. I'm just going recycling through them.
I'm gonna dress up as King David and carry around the head of Goliath.
Yeah.
We could do matching cosplays next year for Dragon Con.
No, we
Alright.
really should, dude. Because I always want to
Yeah.
do that, and it never seemed to be. I got like one guy to go as what's his name, Qui-Gon Jinn, to my Obi-Wan. So it was like that worked. People were actually bowing to us like, oh, Master Jedi's, and I was like, oh, it
That sounds like fun.
was fun.
We could go as Grandpa's 4 birds.
Oh, and the squawk. Yeah.
The squad.
That's squad.
It's
Hey,
hard to
Michael,
say.
do you have any social media, anything, or your business or potential whatever that you want to promote on the show?
I mean, I have a social media, but I don't necessarily need to promote it. But I guess I have some cosplay on there, so it's like, follow Super Cubano Deluxe at Gmail not at gmail.com. It's just Super Cubano Deluxe on Instagram.
That's
Sweet.
funny.
I almost said at gmail.com.
Great. Tune in next week. We're having a heart surgeon on who is releasing a book about how to prevent heart attacks. That will be a very interesting show. Please donate to our Patreon. Like, subscribe, leave a review. Apple reviews, we love it. We got one this week. It was so kind and that was such a warm, fuzzy feeling. So
We got a review.
we got a nice review. So
Wow.
please just support the show in any way you can. All the links will be in the description. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
for
Mom.
having me, man.
I don't even know how she learned how to use Apple.
Podcasting with Grandpa Bart and Rosie, always on his shoulder. This is Grandpa and Chill.
Grandpa and Chill is brought to you by your hosts, Brandon Fox, Bart Frank, and Phines Jackson. Our producer is Sierra Doss. You can find episodes old and new on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch the show, and follow us on Twitter for behind-the-scenes moments you can't get anywhere else.